So we're about to head into another skirmish season, which means, that's right, another 1,500 Blitz Living Legend points up for grabs. So, as is tradition on this channel, let's look at where we're at today and look at the projections going through Skirmish Season 11. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, my Flesh and Blood friends. Welcome back to the channel, and happy Flesh and Blood Monday. That's right, this weekend kicks off Skirmish Season 11, which means, depending on your LGS, you may have Living Legend, you may have some Limited, or you may have Blitz. Now, in the case of Blitz, we can potentially be losing some heroes this season with another 1,500 Living Legend points on the table. So today what I want to do, in kind of the tradition that we like to do here, and of course we'll track this going through the season with weekly updates, but let's go ahead and start and look at where we are today, and then look at the points breakdown for the season, and also do week by week. And yes, I've got my fancy spreadsheets, and we can go and look at what percentages folks need, how likely they are to leave, and who we think is actually going to go. So first up, we have the current status of the Living Legend leaderboard. We see that Dorinthea is in first place with 800 and effectively 870 points, 130 to go. Right? Bravo in second place at 770, and then Zen battled Zen at 650, followed by Blaze, both of whom are very relevant, at 640. After that, we have Prism, Kayo, Levia, the Emperor, and then so on, so on. And what I showed here is basically down to, for the most part, anybody who I think has points up for grabs. But remember, folks, that this is Blitz, and depending on the locals and depending on what happens and who shows up, it's nearly anybody's game. I'm not going to say anybody's game, because I don't think Melody's going to get it done, or Cavdane or whatever, but you get my point. It's a wide open field. So Skirmish Season 11, this is the data that is currently available in Gym as of February 27th. So plus or minus a few going into the actual start of the season, and then some events may or may not fire or whatever. But there are 574 total skirmish events listed in Gem, 378 of which are Blitz, which is roughly 66% Blitz on the season. That is actually very, very similarly in line with where we fell on Skirmish Season 10 in terms of percentage. There's actually more events available globally, which is really cool to see. Now, remember that last season, they started the locked points. So 1,500 points available for the season, and then they'll give points, basically they'll take 1,500 divided by the number of skirmish or Blitz skirmishes, I should say, and then divide it out. And in this case, so last season it was 5, and in this season, it's going to be roughly 4. I think it was like just slightly over 4. So you'd round down. So we'll have somewhere around 1,500 points, probably a little less than that with all things said and done. But again, we'll see. Now, this is a 3-week season, and typically the first 2 weeks are the big ones. Usually the second week is the biggest, and the third week's kind of like a lower one. And this one, the hump's not quite as, the tail, I should say, is not quite as, low. And actually, we have basically a match for week 1 and week 2. So 143 events. Now, I do want to throw the explanation in here of the way that I do the weeks is from the Friday to the Thursday. And the reason I do it that way is because even though the hero lock is on effectively the Monday after the weekend, which is when the hero would have needed to accumulate points, because they don't retire until the following Friday, they actually can accumulate points, which means that if we're looking at total point sharing over the season, you're right, you should only look at the weekend if you're looking at what will make them LL that week. But if you're looking at the whole season together and how those points can cascade down to other heroes, which is very, very, very relevant for the whole picture, we do need to look at the entire legality of that. So again, I'm from Friday to Thursday, which constitutes week 1, and then Friday to Thursday constitute week 2, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the end of the season on week 3. So hopefully that explanation is clear as mud. Now, again, 378 total events, 143, 141, and then 94. So definitely not as big of a drop off that last weekend. Okay. Now let's go head over. I've got to resize this so I can read it, and then I've got a zoom that I'll throw up as we're talking through things. But what I have up now is the Skirmish Season 11 starting projections. Now, I have a lot of columns hidden from what this spreadsheet will become over the course of the season, because as of right now, looking at the week breakdowns and what they scored is just nulls, right? So let's go in and look overall at some important factors. So if we go and we look at Dorinthea, she's number 1, right? And this is OG Dorinthea, not Quickie P. Do not get her confused. Quickie P is about 12 rows down there with 215 with 215 to go. So if we go look at Dorinthea at her 869, she would need 33, again, on my 4-point projection, which I believe to be accurate. She would need 33 wins or just shy of 9% this season overall. So overall, she'd have to take down 9% of the wins this season. I don't think she's going to do that, especially with the recent changes that we've seen, probably favoring Terra and Fatigue, who will like to play a lot of reacts, both to feed Might and for Crown of Seeds. I think Dorinthea is going to have a tough go. Bravo would need to win 15%, right? You see how fast this climbs. And you see that Zen and Blaze, probably, I've got them highlighted. It's the more relevant to this conversation. Both of them would need to win 23% of the games this season, of the events this season, I should say. That's a lot. Could we possibly have another season here? I mean, to be fair, we lost Victor in 10. But I think it's possible we'll have another season here where nobody goes. And if that's the case, I mean, regardless of if that's the case or not, actually, given the fact that we only saw one last season, and given where Zen and Blaze are now with how good they are and have been over the last 2 seasons and now into this 3rd season, it's actually calling into question if 1,500 is actually the right number. That's maybe a whole different side discussion. I'm positive that their approach of having a set number is the right thing to do, because that way if they lose track, they have more people. Because again, remember, stores can decide what they want to do. So when they send out the invites, it could go either way on them. So having a locked number is 100% the correct approach. I just don't know that 1,500 is the right number, especially when you look at, the number of heroes that we're adding. And anyway, like I said, probably another discussion, but the takeaway from this should be that, the 2 big baddies in the room, whom I believe, at least today, even with Needle gone, I think Zen's still very, very, very good. I do believe that both of them, it's going to be a tough climb to get to LL this season. And after that, you see how fast it goes up, right? Prism would need 28%. Kayo's in the 31%. Kayo's very, very, very good, but I don't think he's 30% good. Right? You got Levia right below that, ASC, and you just see how fast it climbs. So this is going to be probably, and then what'll be interesting is that, if everything stays the same, which we would expect it would on the 1,500, I mean, it's not changing this season, so it is what it is, right? But as they continue to climb and they kind of move as a group together, I mean, I expect, if we look at kind of what happened, I'll throw it up in season 10 and 11, and how, spread the field gets overall because of the local metas. Probably you're going to have this whole chunk move together. So could it be possible in Skirmish Season 10 that we lose 12, because that's how numbers work. Skirmish Season 12, could we possibly lose 5 or 6 heroes? That would be very, very, very interesting. So I think that's really the takeaway going into this. The projections are, I do expect Zen to get points. 23 is a lot. 23%, I mean, right? He'd have to get 88 wins over the season. Blaze at 90. I think we probably end up with, a good 5 or 6 heroes within potential spitting distance coming out of this season. And then, probably some onesie, twosie events headed into be summertime-ish, probably like midsummer, like July-ish, right? Would it be about the right time for another skirmish in that range? Very interesting to me. So I was really surprised, admittedly, when I sat down and I, actually did the numbers. We're probably going to have Zen around for another season. Probably have Blaze around for another season, and that's okay, right? That's okay. But anyway, so the takeaway from this for your event planning is, usually when we look at the reason I break them down by week 1, week 2, week 3 is so that you can be like, all right, I'm probably not going to be able to play this hero at my event in wherever. And I think you're probably good to go, because if we go, so I kind of ignored the, cumulative season projections, but it looks at what they need to have won by each week. So Zen would need to win 60% to be gone week 1. Not going to happen. 31% week 2. It's achievable, but unlikely, because I'm saying 23% of the season is, I don't know, he's probably going to end up very close. But anyway, this is really cool to look at and think about. But remember, very likely that no matter who you want to choose, you'll be able to play them all season. So get those reps in, have fun. I will see you all back here after week 1 to look at the data and see, maybe Zen will be on track, maybe he won't. That'll give us a better idea through week 2 and week 3. But nothing else, folks. Appreciate you, and go Commando.